Okay, so how do you tell a true visionary from someone who's just really good at pulling the wool over everyone's eyes?
Hmm. That is the question, isn't it? Especially in a world where it seems like charisma and controversy often go hand in hand.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're tackling the question head on today with a look at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Are they genuinely trying to change the world, or are they just playing the fame game for profit?
A really good question.
You've asked for it, and we're going all in. We've got a mountain of articles, social media commentary, and even some royal family history to dig through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
So are Harry and Meghan genuine philanthropists like they present themselves to be? Or are they master manipulators as their critics claim? Let's find out.
I think a good starting point is to look at Meghan's life before she became the Duchess of Sussex. Back in 2017, 2018, there are all these articles about her really making a name for herself. She was a successful actress and a vocal advocate for women's rights and even had her own lifestyle blog.
Right? I remember all that. Even before meeting Harry, she was already talking about her ambition and wanting a career of her own. Remember that "I'm not a lady who lunches" quote.
Yeah. That one definitely made headlines.
It did. It really captured the public's attention and made her seem different.
Yeah.
Someone who wanted more than just a life of privilege.
It did. And it set the stage for what many saw as her desire for a life of purpose beyond, just marrying a prince. But then, of course, she did meet Harry, and, well, their relationship became a global phenomenon.
It absolutely exploded. And that's where things get kind of tricky, right? Because even though she was vocal about wanting her own identity, the narrative often shifted to her like snagging a prince.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like a tale as old as time. It's a trope we see so often with women in the public eye, especially those who marry into these powerful families. It raises the question, can a woman be both ambitious and in love?
And make you wonder, right?
It does. And with Meghan, there's this other layer that adds even more intrigue. Her religious background and conversion.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really interesting. So
Yeah.
before marrying Harry, Meghan converted to the Church of England, right?
She did.
And this wasn't just a quickie conversion either. She had some serious study sessions with the Archbishop of Canterbury himself, and even had a private baptism ceremony.
Which is quite significant when you think about it.
Totally. And sources from back then, 2018, 2019, indicate that faith actually plays a genuine role in her life.
It seems like a pretty big commitment, don't you think?
I mean, yeah, some people might try to view that conversion as some sort of strategic move, but honestly, the Church of England is steeped in tradition. To go through all that just for appearances seems a bit extreme.
I agree. It does suggest a deeper level of commitment to the faith and to the traditions she was embracing.
Exactly.
But speaking of commitment, let's move on to the professional choices that Harry and Meghan made after they stepped back from their royal duties. Remember when they launched Meghan's podcast Archetypes on Spotify?
Oh, yeah, that was huge, especially with that reported $20 million deal, right?
Right.
And Archetypes wasn't just some fluff piece. It went straight to #1 in several countries right out of the gate and had some pretty big-name guests, too. Serena Williams, Mariah Carey, even Paris Hilton.
Wow, yeah, they definitely had the ingredients for success, but as we know, Spotify ended up parting ways with them after only one season.
And then, just to add fuel to the fire, Bill Simmons, the Spotify executive, dropped that infamous Grifter comment.
He did not hold back. Simmons was very critical, publicly suggesting that Harry spent too much time dwelling on royal family drama and not enough time actually developing new and interesting content.
So basically, he didn't think they were pulling their weight.
Yeah, pretty much. He questioned whether they delivered on what that multi-million-dollar deal was supposed to be about.
Harsh. But
Yeah.
he does raise a valid point. Were they truly passionate about the podcast? Or was it just a way to cash in on their royal connections?
It definitely feeds into that grifter narrative that's been circulating.
It does.
But it's important to note that both Spotify and Archwell Audio, which is Harry and Meghan's production company, insisted that the split was mutual. And there are reports that Meghan is actually continuing to develop Archetypes content for another platform.
So she's not throwing in the towel just yet. It suggests some level of dedication to her work, wouldn't you say?
It does, and she's not just sticking to the podcasting world either. Remember her investment in Clever Blends?
Oh, yeah. The oat milk latte company.
Yeah, right. It shows that she's trying out different entrepreneurial things beyond just the typical celebrity spotlight. She may be trying to build something entirely her own.
Building something of her own, though, seems to attract a lot of media attention. And it hasn't always been positive. Remember that New York Post article? They called her greedy and quoted a Hollywood agent saying she was Not a great talent.
Yikes. Well, being in the public eye, especially when you're connected to the royal family, often means that every little thing you do gets scrutinized. Every word gets analyzed and dissected.
That's true. It makes you wonder what's genuine and what's just tabloid fodder.
Definitely.
It's interesting how people seem so divided about them. Some see Harry and Meghan as genuinely trying to make a difference, while others just see them as fame-hungry opportunists.
It is a really complex situation with strong opinions on all sides. But amidst all the media frenzy, I think it's important to look at their actions, you know?
Exactly. Let's talk about some of their philanthropic activities, like the 40 by 40 initiative they launched for Meghan's 40th birthday.
Right. That was a global mentorship program aimed at encouraging people to dedicate 40 minutes of their time to mentoring women who were trying to re-enter the workforce. A noble goal, for sure.
It sounds great,
Yeah.
but I have read some criticisms about it too. Some say that 40 minutes of mentorship isn't really enough to make a lasting impact. It's more of a symbolic gesture than a real solution.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Is it a genuine commitment to empowering women, or is it just a clever way to get positive press? Are they truly invested in the cause, or is it all carefully calculated for PR?
It's that question again, isn't it? Genuine or just a carefully crafted image?
It is, and it brings us back to Archetypes. It seemed to have a great start reaching #1, but what happened after that initial success? Why did things go south? Well, even though they had these high-profile interviews like Sophie Gregoire Trudeau and Trevor Noah, maybe the content just wasn't as interesting or consistent as Spotify had hoped for?
So maybe that's what led to those grifter accusations, Like they got this big deal, but the content wasn't really living up to it.
Yeah, it's possible. But we do have to remember that both Spotify and Artwell Audio said that they parted ways mutually.
True, true.
The term grifter is pretty harsh, but it's also hard to ignore the timing of it all, right? And all the controversy that was surrounding them at the time.
Yeah, that's true. It does make you think about the real purpose behind the podcast. If it was supposed to be this platform for empowering women, did it actually do that? Or did it fall short?
That's tough to say. It's hard to really measure its impact, but it definitely got people talking, and there were a lot of different opinions out there. Some people loved it and praised them for starting these important conversations, but others thought it was kind of shallow or self-serving.
So mixed reactions then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so let's circle back to Harry for a minute. You mentioned earlier that Bill Simmons, that Spotify exec, had some specific criticisms about him. What were those again?
Oh, yeah. Simmons was really frustrated with Harry, like really vocal about it. He thought Harry was too focused on all the royal family drama.
And not enough on, actually creating good content.
Right. He even said publicly something like, nobody cares what you have to say about anything unless you're talking about the royal family.
Ouch.
Yeah, pretty brutal.
So that basically brings us right back to that question, right? Were Harry and Meghan just using their royal ties to make money? Was it all about fame and fortune instead of actually caring about these projects?
I think that's what a lot of people are wondering. Some argue that it's hypocritical for them to step back from royal duties but still hold on to their titles.
Right, like they want all the perks, but none of the responsibility.
Exactly. And that ties directly back into that whole grifter label, right? Are they truly committed to their charitable work, or is it all just a big PR stunt to make themselves look good?
Well, even their philanthropic work has faced criticism. Take the 40 by 40 initiative, for example. Was that really about empowering women, or was it just a way to get some good press around Meghan's birthday?
It did get a lot of attention. The initiative, encouraging 40 minutes of mentorship for women re-entering the workforce, well, it had its supporters, but there were also a lot of people who were critical of it. Some people thought 40 minutes just wasn't enough to make a real difference. They saw it as more of a publicity stunt than a genuine effort to do something meaningful.
It seems like no matter what they do, people are looking for ulterior motives.
It's true.
Are they truly altruistic, or are they just really good at manipulating how the public sees them?
It's hard to know for sure. We do have to acknowledge that they've been involved with various charities for years, even before they were married.
Oh, right, and they donated to support women in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, around the holidays, Archwell donated new cookware to Mina's List. That's a nonprofit that's focused on helping women who have resettled in the U.S. from Afghanistan.
Okay, so their charitable actions seem to be a mixed bag then. Some things are seen as genuine, others are criticized, and we haven't even gotten into all the media drama that always seems to follow them around.
Oh, right. It's been nonstop. They've been accused of using their royal connections for personal gain and even criticized for their parenting choices, like attending events without their kids.
Yeah, I think I read something about Harry going to some Christmas charity event with veterans while Meghan was busy doing something else. And people were all over them about where their children were during the holidays.
It's like they can't do anything right in some people's eyes. Every move they make is scrutinized and analyzed, and often in a negative way.
Are they victims of unfair media attention, or are they just reaping what they've sown?
That's a good question. It does feel like they're stuck in this endless cycle of public judgment, whether it's about their career choices or their charitable work or their personal lives. Someone always seems to have an opinion.
Do you think all this scrutiny is actually coming from legitimate concerns, or is it more a case of the media building them up just to tear them down later?
That's a good question, and it raises another important one. What kind of effect does all of this scrutiny have on a person? How do you deal with having such a polarized public image where everything you do is debated and dissected?
It's got to be tough. It's easy to
Yeah.
forget that they're real people with real feelings trying to figure out how to live their lives in this incredibly complicated and challenging situation.
Yeah. Are they genuinely trying to use their platform to do good in the world, or are they just playing the fame game better than anyone else?
Okay, that's a good place to pause for now. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into the psychological impact of all this attention and what it might reveal about Harry and Meghan's true motives. All right, so we've talked about the criticisms, the whole grifter thing, the constant media scrutiny, but it feels like there's more to the story, doesn't it? I mean, it's easy to focus on all the negativity, but what about Harry and Meghan's perspective? What are their motivations, and how have they responded to all of this?
Right. Focusing only on the negative doesn't give us the full picture. We have to remember that Harry and Meghan have spoken out about all the pressure and negativity they've experienced from both the media and the public. Their perspective is important if we want to try to understand their intentions and whether they're actually driven by a genuine desire to make a positive impact.
Exactly, and especially after that interview with Oprah back in 2021,
Yeah,
you know, they really opened up about the toll it all took on them, especially for Meghan.
they did.
They shared their experiences, the difficulties they faced, and their own perspective on everything that was happening. And I think that's crucial to consider when we're trying to figure out if their motivations are altruistic or just self-serving.
I agree. I mean, Maggot aired some incredibly personal things in that interview, remember, including her struggles with mental health and the lack of support she felt she received from the institution.
Right.
And that vulnerability, it really humanizes them. It adds another layer to this question of whether they're just exploiting their situation or genuinely trying to find their way in a difficult and often hostile environment.
Yeah, and she even revealed that she had suicidal thoughts. That was a huge moment. It really brought to light the dark side of fame and royal life. It makes you think about the pressure, the isolation that she must felt.
It's a stark reminder that behind all the glamour and the public image, they're real people dealing with very real challenges. And, Meghan's experience also speaks to this wider issue of how women's voices are often silenced, especially within powerful institutions. And that adds another layer of complexity to their story, right?
For sure.
It makes you wonder, are their actions motivated by personal gain, or do they really want to challenge and maybe even change these systems of power that have been in place for so long?
There was that one really powerful quote from the interview where Meghan said that she was advised to be 50% less than she was.
I remember that.
It felt like there was a real attempt to kind of diminish her personality, her voice, and make her fit into this predefined mold. So does that mean they're trying to break free from all of that, to forge their own path?
It's an interesting interpretation, and it raises some questions about the role of women within the royal family and what's expected of them. Is there room for individuality and authenticity, or are they supposed to just conform to this rigid set of rules and expectations?
And it seems like Meghan really struggled to find that space. Her decision to step back with Harry, it almost feels like an act of rebellion against those constraints.
It does, doesn't it? And that rebellion has gotten mixed reactions. Some people admire their courage to break free from a system that felt oppressive, while others criticize them for disrespecting tradition and abandoning their duties.
It's so complicated. It's clear that Harry and Meghan have started a conversation about the monarchy's place in the modern world and the pressures that come with being part of it.
Right, and that conversation goes beyond just the royal family. It touches on themes of mental health, racial identity, and the influence of the media on public perception.
It's a good reminder that we're living in a world of instant news and constant social media commentary. It's more important than ever to really think critically about the information we're consuming and to consider all the different perspectives out there.
Absolutely. We have to be cautious about forming judgments based solely on headlines and sound bites. It's important to dig deeper, look at the nuances, and remember that the people in the spotlight are human beings too.
Because at the end of the day, whether you see Harry and Meghan as heroes or villains, visionaries or grifters, they are a reflection of our times. Their story reveals the cracks in institutions, the power of the media, and how tough it is to navigate public life in an age where social media is everywhere.
And maybe their story can be a starting point for conversations about the values we care about, the expectations we put on others, and how important it is to be empathetic and understanding in a world that often feels divided.
So where does all of this leave us? Well, we've laid out the facts, explored the different angles, and highlighted the contrasting viewpoints. Ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide whether we believe Harry and Meghan are grifters or gifted.
Right. But remember, the key takeaway here is this. Don't underestimate the power of perspective. What we see depends on where we're standing, and when it comes to figures like Harry and Meghan who are so polarizing, our own biases and preconceived notions can really cloud our judgment.
It's a good point. So as always, keep asking questions, stay curious, and don't settle for easy answers. That's what makes this whole journey of exploration so interesting.
Absolutely.
Because in a world where image is everything, and the line between what's real and what's manipulated is blurry, the search for truth requires us to be constantly vigilant and willing to dig a little deeper.
Well said. Until next time, keep diving deep.